Although the second verse in Leviticus chapter 12 is pretty straightforward and prescribes the laws of when a woman gives birth to a male child, the rabbis use it as an excuse to discuss what determines the sex of an unborn child. According to modern Orthodox Rabbi Shlomo Riskin's radical interpretation, the rabbis of the Talmud suggest that if the wife climaxes first, the child will be a boy. According to Riskin, the rabbis were exploiting the male desire to sire a son to encourage the male sex to address the needs of their partners. We are pleasantly surprised by how progressive the rabbis were in this regard and pick up the conversation here with Nachmanides' comments on Genesis and the fact that it was not preordained that mankind would not be hermaphrodites, an organism that possesses both male and female reproductive organs and not in need of sex. If you find this interesting, listen to the full episode and subscribe to Madlik. This is a kind of a pivotal moment in understanding who we are. Before we open it up to discussion, in Genesis, the same Ramban who says it's not good that man should be alone, it says it does not appear likely that man was created to be alone in the world and not beget children, since all created beings, male and female of all flesh, were created to raise seed. The herb and the trees also have their seed by them. But it is possible to say that it was in accordance with the opinion of the rabbi who said Adam was created with two faces, male and female persons combined, and they were so made that there should be in them an impulse causing the organs of generation to produce a generative force from male to female. So, or you may say seed in accordance with the known controversy regarding pregnancy, and the second phase was a help to the first in the procreative process, and the Holy One, blessed be He, saw that it was good. That helpmate stood facing Him. This is the meaning of what is said, I will make him a helper otherwise to him. So what Ramban is saying, Rabbi, is it's spring outside and you and I are walking and we're seeing bees that are pollinating plants. Plants have both male and female inside of them. Procreation does not need necessarily different sexes or different beings. So Ramban here too is saying there could have been different ways. The way God wanted it was to have us to be distinct and then to come together. But it didn't have to be that way.
Right.
Fascinating. So this is kind of interesting. How important do you think? I mean, I think in modern terms, we don't find this discussion all that important.
Well, I was going to say that this is not a modern discussion. This is about creation. This is about what God intended male and female to be. The idea that du partsufim, that there are man was made with two faces, is an amazing idea, right?
Yeah. And I think what it does is where we kind of talk about this in terms of theology or philosophy or conduct is we to say, yes, we could have been one united, but so much about life is finding your other half, is uniting that which is broken. We do look at this and draw and extrapolate. I think those of our listeners who are into the Kabbalah, there's so much in the Kabbalah, whether it's the Shekhinah is the female force, or if you're tefillin, the long one is the male, the short one is the female. In many of our traditions, these gender definitions do have an impact. And I think what's fascinating is, number one, that Ramban is showing that there were other alternatives, there were other traditions. And I think you're right as a modern, but I think we'll find that the rabbis too took with a grain of salt what other people were saying, which is drawing very hard and solid I would say lessons from this. So let's go on a bit more. We are talking in our parsha. First, it says if a woman gives birth to a boy, she's impure for 60 days, and if she gives birth to a girl, it's only 30 days, and that's been a discussion that we've had in episodes past. But it does raise the question of what determines the sex of the child. So the Gemara in Barachot says, is prayer effective for that purpose? Can you pray, I hope my child is a boy, I hope my child child is a girl. Rabbi Yitzchak, son of Rav Ami, said the tradition teaches that the gender of the fetus is determined at the moment of conception. If the man emits seed first, his wife gives birth to a female. If the woman emits seed first, she gives birth to a male, as it is stated, quoting our verse, when a woman emitted seed, Tazria Zera, and bore a male. From what are we dealing here? We are dealing in a case where they both emit seed simultaneously. So when can you pray? Only if. So I don't know if there are any other interpretations of this, but Rabbi Riskin, in that lecture that he gave many years ago, he was talking about when do they climax? And he was
Right.
saying that the rabbis pinned onto this pasuk really a revolutionary approach to sexuality, where way before the modern psychologist invented or discovered the O spot, so to speak, the rabbis understood that women had sexual needs as well, and whether they believed that that was a determining factor, or I think Rabbi Riskin argued whether they wanted men to be cognizant, men who they assumed would want to have to sire a boy, a male.
Right.
This way they would pay more attention to the needs of their wife.
See, that last piece is Rabbi Riskin's, that was his creative thing. That since men want boys, they need to be concerned about their wives.
So do you think that was his chidush? And let's go back a step further. Is this talking about climaxing, or what
I
is
don't
it?
I don't know. It was very creative on Rabbi Riskin's part. I don't know if it's in the Chumash or it's just in Rabbi Riskin's head. That's why Rabbi Riskin was so creative, because you're not quite sure, but it was a very creative idea.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the barachot, what barachot learns.
Right. Yeah, what it means, right. But it's brachot on the pasuk, right?
Yes,
It's
but
brachot playing on the verse.
Isha Mizra'at Tchila. Maybe it has to do with, what came first? Did the sperm impregnate the egg? Did the egg impregnate the sperm? I gotta believe, I couldn't find in any of the commentaries that they actually questioned what it meant. So I'm just going to go with Rabbi Riskin's interpretation of its
Okay, let's go with it.
climaxing. And therefore, I opened up the book called Kosher Sex by Shmuley Boteach. And I wondered, what did he have to say about this subject? But before we go into what he's saying, again, I want to make the point that what the rabbis are doing here, if they're doing what Rabbi Riskin attributes to them, is they are not describing necessarily what they feel happened. What they're trying to do is lead the discussion. What they're trying to do is courtesy impact the way we live. And that becomes kind of fascinating because this is not written in stone. These are myths. These are suppositions. And it's really a question of how we take them and what we do with them. So Shmuley Boteach writes, under Jewish law, a wife's contentment is the key to sexual harmony, as sex is the most central elements of marriage. The Bible, in fact, records three fundamental unqualified rights of a woman possesses: food, clothing, and shelter, and conjugal rights, ona'ah. But only if either husband or wife withholds sex from the other over a period of time are they immediately dubbed to be mored or moredet. It is a cause for divorce. You can get divorced if either one of the partners in a marriage says the other one is withholding sexual relationships. This is because onah, sexual rights, is the essence of marriage, says the rabbis, and to withhold romance and sex is the cause of physical pain, food, destruction. So I think what he is correctly arguing is that in rabbinic law, there was a sensitivity, I think way before its time, towards the needs, the sexual needs of both partners. Would you agree
Correct.
with me on
Now,
that?
I would agree with you on that. And that is more kind of the simple explanation, the pshat to Rabbi Riskin. Rabbi Riskin has a chidush. Boteach is just telling you what it says.
Yeah, because we all know, for those of you who have been to a Jewish wedding, you can also get married in three ways. Shtar, kasut, va'onah. You get married with a ketubah, that's a contract. You can get married with money by a purchase, by the transfer of ownership. That is the ring. And Onah, if you notice at an Orthodox wedding, after the ceremony, the couple goes into yichud. They have to be alone enough time that if they wanted to, they would consummate the marriage. So this really is not a supposition, not theology. This is written into our rabbinic law and rabbinic texts. And I give Shmuley Boteach a credit for popularizing this, especially when 20 years ago when he wrote the book, it was still part of the kind of sexual revolution.
No,
People
right.
were talking about these things.